In a nutshell, it's about developing a relationship that loads of work comes off the back of, really, basically. You put me off my point now, what I was going to say. Yeah, I really have forgotten it.
Sorry.
That's just being mindless, really, isn't it? But, about working on yourself. Lots of people say that's so selfish, and you say the ultimate relationship is about being with yourself. That is so healthy for the people around you, don't you think? Or
Oh, absolutely. No one wants to be around a miserable sod, do they? Do you know, basically, we're not being with ourselves and knowing what's going on in our own heads and our own hearts. How can we give that to somebody else? We just can't.
Well, you get lots of people out there that are always happy, so they're great people to be around, but it's that great thing.
Yeah, if they're internally really happy, I can't see what would be wrong with that. I'd love it.
I suppose what I meant in always giving a happy facade, you know, and they're not really in the moment with themselves, and they're hiding their true feelings, and they've got the pressure to be.
But maybe they're just where they're at, and that's all they can do right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Maybe some of us are just blooming happy.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Oh, goodness me.
You're digging through here, mate. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Well, it's like, people are at where they're at, I suppose, like you say, Fiona, but, we're all, sometimes it takes a lot of work to be in the moment, I think, because I heard about it a couple of years ago, and I'm still struggling with my own habits I've grown up with.
Okay.
Things I've learnt from my family,
sure.
The way I express myself,
sure.
They're really hard habits to break.
Well, I have to disagree. I think it's a choice. I think that's what's really important in life, is that you have a choice. And I don't know if anyone else will agree with me, but being in the moment is a choice that you make in each and every moment. And you can choose to get into your conditioning, or you can choose to be present and just watch your conditioning fade away.
Yeah, I kind of would agree, Fiona, but it goes back to, we haven't actually spoken about this, but, the word neuroplasticity is quite a big buzzword at the moment as well, about we now know that the brain can change, whereas, not that long ago we thought it was basically hardwired. By the time you were an adult, that was it. But now we know that we can actually change our thought process, we can build these new neural pathways. And sometimes you're quite right, Chris. You do meet people that maybe on the outside can be very happy and, bright, but maybe there is stuff going on. And equally, Fiona, I agree, we do have a choice. But sometimes, that pathway that we've built over years of giving ourselves those same negative thoughts can be difficult to get out of. But the process of meditation really is to learn to sort of build new grooves, so to speak. So that is where the choice comes in. Yes, it might be difficult to change old thought patterns and habits, but the process is to keep doing it. And so eventually we're starting just to build new inroads,
Okay, so I mean, we've talked about kind of the emotional benefits of, I'm looking at the Oxfordshire Mindfulness Centre at the moment, who are, I think, quite big in this area. And they've suggested that neuroscientific studies find changes in the areas of the brain associated with decision-making, attention and empathy, who regularly practice mindfulness, that meditation increases the area of the brain linked to regulating emotion, which I think is a really interesting one, and that it improves people's attention, job performance, productivity and satisfaction, and increases blood flow, reduces blood pressure and protects people at risk of developing hypertension, cardiovascular disease and the risk of dying from that. So there's the emotional well-being, I suppose, that comes from this, but there are clearly physiological changes that happen
Absolutely.
as well. So we were talking last week, I think, when we were talking about ecotherapy, about, it's really good for your head, but actually there's a real positive in terms of your physiology as well. The same is true then with regard to mindfulness?
Yeah, like you're saying, it makes the regulation of emotion in the brain. That's done by the limbic system in the brain, which some people call the old brain. And when you go into the stress response, that gets really turned on, and every other part of the brain gets turned off, that survival mechanism. And what we were saying earlier about how fast-paced it is today, people are often perceiving themselves as being stressed, and there's actually no physical danger. And and I understand that totally. And often your patterns can be hard to overcome because they're associated with that stress response in the brain, where meditation enables you to actually start to look at those stressful situations and realise that actually it's a mental stress. And the stopping in the meditation that we mentioned earlier, that stopping is enough for the circuitry of the brain to go, do I actually need to be in the limbic system? And actually then, as soon as you stop and you have a question like that, that means your frontal cortex is working, and the limbic system is either on or off. It's not half on. You're either in arousal or you're not, as far as the brain's concerned.
Yeah, like, I'm not going to get this phrase right, the autonomic response system.
Yeah.
Where, like, you're
Autonomic,
autonomic, where you're either in sort of, flight or fright mode, where you've got no choice about it kicking in. If you're in a spot of danger, that'll kick in, where you will either run or fight.
Absolutely, or freeze, which is when the stress response has been exhausted.
So I can really relate to what you're saying, because I suffered panic attacks for sort of 10 years, and I got into some really sort of deep channeled routines of behaviour, and it's hard to break, and I could feel them getting worse and worse and worse, and that in itself was extremely frightening, because it almost seemed like, without the support, I certainly couldn't do it by myself, knowing how to stop that. So I was glad that I've found, like, talking therapies and support to open my eyes to that vicious circle, where you've got the frightening thoughts, you've got the way it changes your behaviour, and then the response system of the flight or fright. So you're getting the physical symptoms of fear and adrenaline being released in the body, and then dealing that mentally and not knowing what it is extremely frightening for people out there as well. I'm sure there's lots of people listening to this show that might have experienced that and not known what's going on for them.
Okay, so clearly there's some stuff to take on board here. I think we're going to have a practical demonstration where we're going to do some breathing exercises in a little while. The other thing I think it's important, what you were saying, Chris, was it brought real benefits, but you needed somebody to guide you. You need some help to get there.
Yeah, because I was too deep.
Absolutely.
We're all kind of saying that mindfulness is in essence quite a simple thing. It sounds and is simple, but it's quite hard to do. Lizzie, you were talking about the 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction course, and I know that, Chris, you wanted to mention this.
Yeah.
Mention away. Bearing in mind we've got a practical to do, so keep it relatively short. We'll have a quick track after that, and then we'll come back. So what is the 8-week course, Lizzie? What will people get from it?
The 8-week course, the model that I follow is John Kabat-Zinn mindfulness-based stress reduction course, which is over 3 weeks. It's 2 hours class once a week. And basically it's sort of travelling through, it was interesting when you were talking about anxiety, Chris, and how scary it can be, and dealing with that. And I think the model that I work with works very nicely, because we just gently start to touch into the practice of starting to notice what sensations are arising. And when over a few weeks, when we start to get comfortable with that, then we start to look at, okay, what is this discomfort? And that often starts, maybe if we're learning to do a sitting practice, and the first thing that happens if you're learning to sit cross-legged often is, my knee aches, I really want to move. It's that, okay, this is a physical sensation. Can I actually just be with this? Or, do I have to get up and move? Is that my knee-jerk reaction? Sorry about the pun there. But,
well done.
But can I just be with that? And can I just, how does that feel? What does that feel like? And you're kind of just shining a little spotlight on it to kind of investigate it. Because you know that you can move. But, what does that feel like? Can I manage with that? Can I cope with that? And so we then start to build that into our actual personal feelings.
So, there are options. There are places people can go. Lizzie, we're going to put some stuff on the Facebook, so people can go and find out about your course.
Thank you.
Fiona, similarly, we'll put a link on for the stuff that you're doing. But there's plenty of stuff out there. If you are interested in going and getting involved, we're going to come back in a little while for a practical. But in the meantime, we're going to have another tune. I'm going to get somebody back out and announce this as well, because I have no idea about it.
This is Warpaint, and this is called Love Is To Die.
Happy days.
But it's not what you think.
got so much to get through, so I'm going to fade that out. That was
War
paint.
Loves to die.
There you go.
Loves to not die.
Sounds quite nice, but unfortunately we haven't got time tonight. So much to cram in, so much to do, so little time. We promised you this last week. I know that there are people out there in listener land who have tuned in specifically for this. We're going to do a practical. It's not often we get to do a practical on Mind Your Head, but tonight we're going to do a practical. Lizzie, what we're doing a breathing exercise.
We're just going to do a really simple breathing practice. It's a guided breathing practice.
Excellent stuff.
And it's just something that, you could do this at your desk, at lunchtime, you can do it whilst commuting on the train, anywhere basically where it's safe to stop. Obviously not driving or operating machinery, etc., etc.
So I can't because, I've got a radio show to direct, but I might get into it anyway.
I think you might be okay.
Just throw something at me if I doze off.
Yeah, okay. Right. So I'm just going to talk, you guys through it, and just wherever you are, just maybe come and join us, really. So putting your cups of tea down, and if you're sitting on a chair, just come away from the back of the chair a little bit, just so that you're supporting your own body, you're supporting your spine, and see whether you can allow the feet to come directly down onto the floor. If they don't maybe just scoot up a little bit. So if you've got short legs like me, you might need to come a little bit further off the chair, just so that you can feel your feet on the ground. And you can either close your eyes, or if that doesn't feel comfortable, just allow the gaze to be soft and just maybe gaze downwards. And then just have an awareness of the body, having awareness of your feet on the floor, having a sense of yourself